In this edition of RPP News, we find out the voters' superpower. We're days away from the Drift Festival, and we farewell a local jazz icon. Hello, I'm Catie Sharp. Welcome to the latest edition of RPP News, bringing you stories from across Frankston and the Mornington Peninsula. Rosebud police have seized firearms stolen from a Bendigo property in March following a raid on a Safety Beach property this week. Police located the firearms in a hidden four-wheel drive tray. They also seized an imitation firearm and drugs. A 60-year-old Safety Beach man has been charged with possessing a trafficable quantity of firearms, handling stolen goods and drug offences. He has been bailed to appear before the Frankston Magistrates Court. A federal election has finally been called, and there looks to be some fierce competition in both Dunkley and Flinders. Candidates are outlining their policies and preferences, except for Flinders Independent Despy O'Connor, who has announced she will not be directing preferences. She is said to be truly independent in Parliament. She cannot engage in preference deals with other candidates or parties. She added she trusts voters who have chosen her to choose well with preferences too, calling preferencing the voters' superpower. A new partnership between the South East Council's Climate Change Alliance, Deakin University and the Biosphere Foundation will enable Western Port and Port Phillip Bays to play an important role in Australia achieving net zero carbon emissions. The alliance, which includes both Frankston and the Mornington Peninsula councils, is planning blue carbon projects that will promote healthy mangrove, seagrass and salt marsh ecosystems which are capable of capturing carbon 30 to 50 times faster than terrestrial forests, locking it into marine sediment for thousands of years. The project will deliver comprehensive maps of existing habitat and suitable areas for coastal wetland restoration. Reports that the Peninsula property market is calming down may be a little premature. A Frankston beachfront property described as run down has smashed the suburb's house price record by $1 million after doubling its asking price at auction last weekend. The dated Gould Street property was listed for $2.5 million but went under the hammer for a whopping $5.05 million. Meanwhile, if you're looking for a way to keep the little ones entertained these school holidays, you don't have to look far. You can find fairies in the Briars Gardens, carnival rides on Rye Foreshore, twilight markets in Frankston, and of course the exciting new Drift Festival, which launches this week. Artist Janine Willis is curating the Ocean exhibition and told RPP what we've got to look forward to.
So Ocean is a project that is multidisciplinary. It is a collection of ocean-inspired and ocean-related artworks that traverse the whole peninsula and cover many disciplines. So there are works that are visual artworks, video artworks, dance works, sound works, all kinds of different works, all ocean-inspired.
And RPP was saddened to hear of the recent passing of an icon. Tommy Carter was a legend in the Australian jazz community who is remembered for creating the Battle of the Sounds in the 1960s, as well as for inventing the Bertie Beetle showbag. In the early 80s, Tommy helped establish what was then 3RPP. He presented a jazz show, eventually became president, and was awarded a life membership. For many years, Tommy ran a popular jazz band at the Baxter Tavern, and he was awarded an Order of Australia medal for services to the entertainment community on the peninsula. RPP extends its sincere condolences to Tommy's sister Eileen and the family. After the break, we go to David Robertson with this month's Bendigo Bank Market Update.
Everyone knows Australia has 4 big banks. But there's another big bank snapping at their heels. It's been around for over 160 years, has 1.9 million customers nationwide who bank in branch, online or with their mobile app, and is regularly voted one of Australia's most trusted brands. Who is this bank that has everyone's attention? Welcome to Bendigo Bank, the better big bank.
Established in 1988, Progress Signs has been servicing the local community for 30 years. Located on the Mornington Peninsula, they are the #1 destination for all your signage needs, specialising in a variety of signage from vehicles to shop fronts, occasional and corporate events, short-term, long-term and everything in between. If it's signs you need, be it large or small, Progress Signs is the place to call. Available 24/7 at progress-signs.com.au or call the team on 5975 9188. Thinking Signs? Think Progress Signs, a station sponsor.
More good news on the outlook for jobs, retail activity and our fiscal position, but still against the backdrop of global tensions and rising inflation. Our updated forecasts after the federal budget and the RBA policy statement. Despite the volatility in the markets driven by geopolitical tensions and supply bottlenecks, Australia's economic data continues to run ahead of RBA and consensus forecasts, with unemployment down to 4% and likely to be in the threes in a matter of months, and retail sales up another 1.8% in February, which is 9% higher than a year ago and 19% higher than at the start of 2020. Our economic outperformance through the pandemic era delivered a revenue windfall in the federal budget of around $120 billion, also helped by rising commodity prices. And while almost 30% of the windfall was spent via new policy commitments, the vast majority was banked, locking in our AAA credit rating. Our net debt to GDP ratio is now forecast to peak at only 33%. So, while not everyone was happy with where the spending was directed, it was modest in volume and had a mix of short-term measures to address rising living costs and the recent floods, and medium-term investments in infrastructure, defence and skills development. The demand side of our economy still looks very strong, but supply remains the challenge now and probably for some time, which is the same problem being seen all around the world. US CPI has hit 7.9%, and their core inflation rate is 6.4%. So the US Federal Reserve have started their tightening cycle with one rate hike already, and the next two hikes are now expected to be 0.5% each. So the consequences of the inflation and energy shock that the war in Ukraine has added to is more urgency for central banks to tackle inflation. And in the US, suddenly their yield curve is inverted, with short-term interest rates above the 10-year rate, which, as the chart shows, has proved to be a very reliable indicator of recessions over the last 50 years. Fortunately, in Australia, we are likely to have a more gradual increase in official interest rates and a more resilient economy somewhat insulated from global factors. And now the RBA have dropped the word patience from their monthly monetary policy statement, making June the most likely timing for the first rate hike in their sequence. The inflation outlook is one of the few certainties ahead. All inputs, including energy prices, industrial and precious metals, and agricultural commodity prices, are adding to upside pressures. So, while some of these price movements may be helpful to our export markets, they add to the need for the RBA to normalise policy settings, which should equate to 3 rate hikes this year and roughly another 3 next, or an official cash rate of around 1.5%. As we mentioned in last month's report, the Aussie dollar will be a good barometer for our progress on economic outperformance and jobs growth. So the recent run-up to 76 cents appears to support this outlook, as well as the surge in commodity prices. And lastly, the announcement of a free trade agreement with India is great news for Australian exporters looking to diversify their markets and also to deal with a slightly firmer Aussie dollar. Exports will be sharply higher for services rather than just goods in the months ahead, so the more bilateral trade agreements the better in these unique economic conditions. And that's the market update from Bendigo Bank.
And next is Nicola with the coming week's weather report.
Hello, I'm Nicola and welcome to the RPP's weekend weather update. Today, Easter Sunday on the 17th of April, saw a mostly sunny day with a chance of late evening showers. We reached a top of 26 with a low of 15. Monday should be a very rainy overcast day. We should reach a high of 20 and a low of 14. Tuesday sees the rain easing, however, the day will remain very cloudy. Expect a top of 18 and a low of 12. And finally, Wednesday the 20th of April sees the rain returning with winds northwesterly 15 to 25 kilometres, turning southwesterly during the day. We will be looking for a high of 19 and a low of 11. And just a quick reminder that the UV index is still predicted to reach 4, which is moderate for the week. Well, that's all for now. I will be back with you on Thursday with our next midweek update. And of course, you can see us on the RPP Local News Bulletin at rppv.com.au, which comes out every Sunday. Until then, take care.
And finally to our surf guru Muzz with the Surf Report.
Hey guys, it's Muzz here with this week's Mornington Peninsula Surf Report. Finally a couple of days of offshore in a row. Today, Thursday, then we go into Friday, Saturday, into half a Sunday before we get our first sort of front coming through. For the first time in probably 6 months, or maybe not that long, but in about 4 months, we're going to have 4 or 5 days of offshore in a row. That's a good sign that autumn's finally coming upon us. Water's warm. There's a fair bit of swell around. It's looking pretty good all week. A pretty solid, well, let's not say solid, but a very consistent bunch of waves. Some nice warm weather. It has to come at Easter when everyone's around, but it's only the way it goes. So there'll be waves Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then we will get a cool change Sunday night into Monday, but there'll still be swell and it'll be a bit onshore, but there'll be a couple of days of fairly solid waves on the reefs, even though they'll be onshore next sort of Tuesday, Wednesday. And then we might get another turnaround by the looks into a north-northwest again for a bit of a spell. So that's a good sign. That's how autumn should be. So enjoy your surf, enjoy your Easter, get in the water. It'll be fun. I'll be in there and I might even see you. So have fun. Take care.
And that's all from our team here at RPP News, serving the community with stories that matter to you. Keep watching and do tell your friends. Bring you the news from coast to coast across Frankston and the Mornington Peninsula. I'm Catie Sharp. See you for the next edition.